Hi everyone, Teresa here for the Knit Petite project. In this week's post, we're going to hear from some real knitters about the sorts of problems that they come up against with their fit issues being a petite woman. And I've drawn these answers from real knitters, particularly from the first survey that we did for the Knit Petite project. So I took some of the answers from there, but also a fairly lively thread that we've had going for about a week and a half or so on the Ravelry forums. So this is feedback from real knitters for things that they sacrifice by not modifying or not knowing how to modify their knits for their bodies. So you'll see that there's a plethora of different types of issues that people come up against because, of course, there's a plethora of different bodies. There's as many bodies as there are people because there are so many different ways that we can be shaped differently, from the width of our shoulders to the width of our upper arms or the length of what our yoke has to be. That forum posts that are going on Ravelry, which I'll link to below. It's interesting because people say that they really prefer certain sweater constructions over other ones because they find it allows them to be able to modify things better, but the opinion is totally divided because some people prefer like raglans, some people hate raglans, or some people prefer top-down or vice versa. It's really quite interesting. And something else that's interesting that's coming to fruition now is what I really wanted for the Knit Petite project, which was for all of us to work together to create a shared resource. Now I have two new sources that I'm going to be relying on fairly heavily for the rest of April and May and June, when we start talking about the nitty-gritty of looking at the different ways that we're shaped and how we can modify for our bodies. And I would not have known to look for either of these sources if it wasn't for some kind people sharing these suggestions. So the first one is a Vogue Knitting article from winter 92-93. Check out how old, how awesome and old that sweater looks on the cover there. But it wasn't super easy to find a copy, but I got one, and it's an article I haven't read yet, but I'm really excited to read, called Petite Pizzazz. You see right there, written by, her name is Anne-Marie Soto, and I believe that she works for Simplicity, or worked for Simplicity, or at least one of the big four sewing companies. So I'm looking forward to reading that article. And another one that actually really inspired this week's post, talking to real people or getting information from real people, is Fit for Real People. So this is a sewing book, which I think I'll also go into a little bit more depth in. I think it's July when we start talking about how sewing can help us learn about fit for knitting. But this book is really interesting, and I've only just started diving into it because they really do take real people and their different shapes and show you a little bit about how they have to be fitted differently from other people, and how it's so very changeable from person to person. And a very interesting little image that I'm going to share with you right now is this book's description of a short person versus a petite person. So I'll read the description and I'll show you the image in just a second. So short versus petite. Sharon and Kathy are both about 5 feet tall. Sharon on the left is long in the body and short in the legs. She wears a Mrs. size without shortening waist length. Kathy is a true petite. She is proportionately shorter throughout her body, above and below the bust and waist, as well as in her legs. She will need to shorten the waist length in a Mrs. pattern. So now remember, let me just double check. Sharon is on the left and Kathy, the true petite, is on the right. So I'll show you the image here. There you go. And so you see they're wearing these bodysuits so that you can see the shape of their bodies fairly easily. And they've wrapped a little string around their waists so that you can see how the back waist length measurement is different, even though these women are essentially the same height as each other. I hope you can get that impression. So that's a really interesting visual. I mean, there's all sorts of other different ways you can see by looking at them that they're different from each other, but that's for our purposes, talking about petite, really interesting to see. And remember a few weeks ago when we talked about the different ways that you can be petite, and how 5'4" and shorter is sort of a guide or a general rule. That means you'll probably have petite fit issues. But remember, you can have long limbs or short limbs, long torso, short torso, lots of different ways that your body can be comprised to be 5'4" or shorter. So I thought that was an interesting image to share, and that both of these were, I only came across them because of things that people have shared. Very kindly, people shared their expertise and knowledge about fit and petite fitting issues in particular. Some of the people on that thread, I encourage you to go and check it out, and I'll link it below. They say that they have been fitting and tailoring and seamstresses for decades. So it's interesting to hear what they have to say and what their experience is. And it was those individuals that recommended these sources to us. So if you have any sources to recommend to me, please do so. I'm across all the social media, and I'm always very, very open to hearing your suggestions and your questions. And if you have any resources to share, I'm very, very happy to incorporate all of that into the Knit Petite project. So this week, remember, we're hearing from real people. I've kept everything anonymous. It's just quotes from people from this survey and from that forum thread that we have going on Ravelry. So the question for this week is, if at any point in your life you have ever been measured by some sort of professional, and so by that I mean if a seamstress or a tailor has ever taken your measurements for whatever reason, perhaps you've been properly measured for some sort of garment, like a lot of women go out and get measured for brassieres and different other garments that they may or may not wear. So that's the question for this week. Please let me know if you have any answers to share. And stay tuned for the next couple of weeks, where we'll be talking next week about a very interesting topic about style and taste. And I'd like to just take that opportunity to remind everyone about what the Knit Petite project is about. And then at the end of the month, so the last Tuesday of April, we're going to be going over the survey results that is running right now. And the survey that's running right now, I please encourage you to partake and share it with everyone that you possibly can think of who would be interested. And this survey is only 2 questions, and it's asking you what your petite fit issues are. That's all. And I've left it open for people to, of course, give suggestions for the Knit Petite project moving forward. So the end of the month, we'll be going over those survey results. And I'm really looking forward to spending the rest of the spring with you all. It was a lovely day today. I hope it was a lovely day where you are too. And thanks for tuning in. Thanks for staying tuned in. And I hope to see you next week for the Knit Petite project. I'll see ya.